Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Welcome. We're going to get started here in just a moment.
No, I'll put this down.
Okay, let's get started. So welcome, everybody. My name is Paula Houghton. I'm the Director of Outreach and Engagement at Foundations, Inc. And I want to thank all of you for joining us today for our Beyond the Conference webinar series. Before we get started, I just want to give you a little bit of background about Foundations. Foundations is a national education nonprofit located in Mount Laurel, New Jersey. And our mission is to improve the quality of education by building the skills of educators. We work across the school day with after-school programs, schools, districts, and states to create a brighter future for every child every day. If you're interested in learning more about Foundations, you can take a minute to follow us on social media, and I'll drop that information in the chat in just a moment. You may already know us from our signature professional learning experience, Beyond School Hours. Our annual conference is held each year in February. And in 2024, we're going to be in New Orleans from February 14th to 17th, which is the day after Mardi Gras. So if you are interested in joining us, we would love to have you, but be sure to get your flights and hotels early because the week of Mardi Gras sells out fast. Right now, I am delighted to welcome our special guests for today from Harmony SEL and from the Be Great University. And I'm going to turn things over to Elle Essenbacher from Harmony SEL to get things started.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you, Paula. Harmony SEL and Inspire Leading and Learning are our platforms, and we are academies within the family of National University. And we offer no-cost resources for implementing social emotional learning within classrooms, within after-school programs, anyone who works with children, and also professional development for adults, because you can't give what you don't have. So I'm really so happy to share with you today. And our speakers today are two of my favorite people. They're amazing. I did a little digging. Miriam, also known as Mimi Seeley, is our senior program coordinator for Inspire at National University. And I did a little digging, Mimi. Mimi came to us at Harmony from Teach for America. She was an educator in Phoenix, right? But here's something that I found out. Mimi is a certified children's yoga instructor, which I think is so amazing. It is embodied mindfulness. So perfect fit, Mimi. So glad you're here today to share your knowledge and wisdom about our resources for our educators. And Crystal, I met Crystal Adamwi at the Beyond the School conference through a colleague of mine. And Crystal is an amazing person with the resources that she's brought to her program. She's the director of program experience for the Boys and Girls Clubs of America and Crescent region. And she has, now this I read and I can hardly believe it. Crystal says she spent 25 years in nonprofits. I'm thinking she doesn't look like she could possibly, except maybe from the womb. Maybe it was her mother who was carrying her along at that time. And Crystal is an award-winning playwright and poet, and is an essayist for the New York Times. So I'm going to let them get started right away. These are amazing women. I'm so glad you're here to hear what they have to share. And Mimi, I'm going to hand it over to you.
All right. Thank you, Elle. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So bear with me for just a moment. There we go. All right. As Elle mentioned or shared already, and I am the senior program coordinator with Inspire. I'm the former elementary. A little over a year ago. So during my time, I will be speaking primarily, but also touching how Harmony ties in and really the two are meant to be. So during my time, at introductions, I am going to share about what Inspire is, how and why, I'm going to show you how you can inspire and create your own to go into the and then a little bit of some of the research behind Inspire, as well as additional resources.
Mimi, I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm wondering if maybe if you go off camera, maybe your audio will be better for us.
Okay, and if not, let me know. I can step outside too. Is that any better? No, is that better?
A little.
Okay, let me step outside and see if that makes a difference.
That's better.
Oh, it is better. The sound is better?
Yes.
Okay, let's stick with this. I apologize. As I was sharing with the group earlier, I'm on the way from one place to the next. So I found where I could to sit down and hop on for a minute. And just let me know if it cuts out at all in the chat. I can adjust.
Thank you.
So the first question that I have for you and would like you to put in the chat, what teachers have inspired you in your life? And then how would having an inspired teacher in every classroom impact your community? So think about that. And you are also free to come off mic. Just raise your hand. Give another moment or two to formulate those responses.
Mimi,
Yes.
I had a few inspiring teachers. In third grade, Mrs. Whaling really helped me. I was extremely shy and barely spoke, but I was very artistic and I loved drawing. And she really encouraged my art. And in fact, when I created a book, she actually created a project where the whole class would color in the characters that I drew for this whole story that I wrote. And it really helped me make connections with everyone else.
I love that example. I know for myself, what came to mind for me was my high school, one of my high school AP US history teachers. That was a very challenging course, but his ability to connect with the students more on an individual level and get to know us as people, not just, students in his classroom, made me feel much more motivated really to engage with the content and kind of stay the course throughout that semester. Oh, I see in the chat, Wesley put 5th grade, Tom Dye taught us to not just accept everything we read or were told. Yeah, so to think critically about it. I love that. Okay. So Inspire was really birthed from this idea of inspirational teachers. Our benefactor he felt like his life was so greatly impacted by a teacher that he had had when he was in elementary school. So that's where he created Inspire with this thought of wanting to get, every student the ability to have an inspirational teacher in their lives.
It's so weird. I don't understand what you're supposed to do.
All right, moving on. So now what is Inspire? Celebrating and developing inspirational educators is our main mission in Inspire. And we do this through our free on-demand courses and resources that are really designed to support the social emotional learning as well as inspirational construction. So we'll take a look at the platform here in just a second, but we do have 2 pathways that are really structured in that way of SEL and inspirational instruction. I'll give you a minute to just read over the mission and vision as well. So as you can see, our program is research-based, and the tools have all been classroom tested before being put onto the platform. All right, move to the next. So Inspire represents a bold step forward in education, and it's really based off this premise that academic achievement is linked to integrating social emotional learning and effective teaching practices in the classroom. You need to have both. Our platform enables educators to create a safe and inspired learning environment within their classrooms, or perhaps if they are a mentor within their sports teams or after school programs, where all youth and adults can thrive. We are expanding nationally as a means of helping to prepare and retain teacher leaders with current and relevant approaches that support inspired teaching. I'm going to pause for just a moment. And if there are any questions as I'm moving through any of this content, please go ahead, put it in the chat, because Elle is also an excellent resource when it comes to both of our programs and can help respond to those. All right. So this chart signifies some of the inspirational teaching practices and how they then affect the students in those classrooms. So on the left-hand side, you'll see a teaching practice, and then on the right-hand side, what is the impact? For example, teachers who continually reflect on their practice to maximize student engagement are going to then have students who are more engaged in learning. So take a moment, look through the other 4 teacher practices here, and then the impact that they have on students. And I would like you to think about which of these resonate with you the most and why. Keeping in mind, this doesn't have to just be a teacher. This could be an administrator. It could be a mentor. It could be a coach. So which of these really speaks to you? I know for myself, the one that really resonates with me is creating that inclusive, respectful learning environment so that your students feel like they belong, as well as peers and staff at the school feeling like they belong. That was critical for me during my years as an educator and helping me continue to want to show up every day and show up as my best self.
Mamie?
Yes.
Not that this should be like the National University voice all the time, but the last high expectations and promoting student voice and choice were so important to me, and it relates to what I was sharing about Mrs. Whaling, because I was brought up in a home where I was told to be seen and not heard, which is why I was pretty much a silent child out in the world. And finding a way to start developing that voice and having a sense of autonomy was so critical to my development.
Right. I mean, her allowing you to write that book and getting the class engaged in coloring, the art, or doing the art for that, was promoting your student voice, really, as well as, that autonomy of choice and creating something that you felt passionate about. All right, I'm going to move on, but please, if you think of something, I'd love to see it in the chat. Examples are always wonderful. So some of the research to support our program was actually done through partnership with Johns Hopkins, and a lot of our modules were built off of partnership with them. And there was a brief that illustrated these 4 findings here related to Inspire and professional development, specifically what makes our professional development unique or special. So Inspire is research informed, and through interviews and focus groups, it was found that educators who use Inspire really do believe that it helps them develop their skills so that they can be an inspirational teacher. And not only that, but developing their skills and their competencies in a wide range of areas. We have modules that speak to setting up your classroom environment, getting students to collaborate with one another, how to talk to parents. Inspire provides differentiated support based on what's happening in a classroom and also what's happening in an educator's personal life. Looking at different modules that not only support them in their classroom, but also support them as a whole human, which is then going to affect their classrooms. And then Inspire follows best practices for professional learning as it pertains to adult learning. All right, how can I access Inspire? I am going to show you a quick slide here, but then I'm actually going to dive into the portal and show you, real time how to access it. But you'll navigate to inspiresel.org, And there will be a yellow button at the top that says Online Learning Portal that you'll click on. It is going to take you to a registration page, and you'll just select Register Now for free. You will complete a form with just some basic information, and then select Go Now under the Inspired. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing for a moment so that I can pull up Portal.
And the link is in the chat. You all, I recommend just click on that and bookmark it so you can come back to it later. So you'll be able to see what it's all about. Mimi's going to show you, but you'll still have it then bookmarked for yourself.
Thank you, Elle, for putting it in the chat.
Thank
All
you.
right. Once you're on inspiresel.org, there's that little yellow button for Online Learning Portal. And you will see it does auto save your information for future access, but for the sake of this learning, I would select Register Now for free. Complete all this basic information that really just tells us where you're located, what your role is in the field of education, and then what grade levels you teach if you are a teacher, or organization if you're with an organization. So from there, you'll be able to sign in. And then you can access all 4 of our different programs that are through National University here. So I'll select Go Now for Inspire. And then this is our portal. These are the 2 pathways I mentioned, one focusing on building teaching practices, and the other on developing SEL. Within each pathway, there are several units. We actually just added a new unit here for youth development and mentoring. And when you click into a unit, the units are organized by topic. So you can scroll to see the various topics within a unit, and then there are modules within those topics. Let's click into one module. At the very top of the module, you'll see a brief description. And then below that, the objectives for learning. On the left, this is a navigation tool. It just shows you where you are within the platform. And on the right, now every module has these same 5 resources. A document that sets the stage, a note-taking guide that actually is a downloadable Word document that you can just type notes into, and it's organized through the different topics of the module. Additional module resources, and this coaching guide. So if you're an instructional coach, or perhaps you're a leader for mentors or an organization, this coaching guide is going to be your best friend. And then at the end of every module, there are some supplemental videos. Now, as you move through a module, you can see your progress by the green indicated here. And then every module ends with an assessment. You do have to get a score of 100% on the assessment to earn a certificate, but you can take that assessment as many times as needed, and it lets you know which questions you got wrong. So you can always go back and retake it. Once you do that, the modules that you've completed will be under My Reports in the completed section. And you can see all of them here and access your certificates. Let's say you're an educator and you need these modules for CPUs, and you just wanted to print something off to share with your district that shows all your learning. If you click Module Records, you'll get a nice downloadable PDF document that's going to list all the modules you took, the dates that you took the module, and then the length of each module. All right, another way to navigate the platform, if you didn't want to do it via the dashboard over here, would be to go to Map of Modules. And that provides you a nice bird's eye view of all the modules nested within a topic in a unit. I'm going to pause for just a second and check questions. Are there any questions about the dashboard so far, or the modules? You can see we have a wide range of topics here. All right, so if there are no questions, the next thing I wanted to highlight on the dashboard was the trainings and webinars section. Every month, we host different trainings and webinars that relate to both Harmony and Inspire. And you can view all the trainings and webinars for the month by clicking View All. And actually, I'm just going to, I also wanted to share a link in the chat with our national webinar series. I'm just going to pull that up for you really quick. So that link is right there. And it looks like it might have another backslash behind webinars. Navigate back to, I think from there we can actually navigate back to this PowerPoint. All right, so in that webinar series, just so you know what that is, that's where we're bringing in thought leaders in the field of education to come and talk on a wide range of topics that relate to both SEL and instructional practices. This fall, we're actually hoping to do an additional series on emotional well-being for educators or mentors. But we also cover topics like cultural competency. We did one for SEL Day, and we've done ones for elevating student voice. So I highly recommend you check those out. They are free, and if you register, you can get a recording. All right, next slide. I did want to talk a little bit about Harmony and how that relates to Inspire. And I actually think the best way to do that is to navigate back to the portals. Just give me one moment. And Elle, have you seen any, there have been no questions as of yet, right? Or correct? Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, that this is, and Paula answered this, that this will be recorded and you'll have access to this. It'll be provided to you at the end of the, once the session is over.
Yeah, that's a great question. Go back and review. Harmony connects to Inspire in that Harmony is our classroom curriculum. So this is actually what teachers are using to teach social emotional learning competencies in their classrooms. And you'll see when you click into a unit, there are Inspire modules that support that instruction. So the two programs are really meant to be used together to support not just the teacher, but also the students. All right, now, Elle, can you give me a thumbs up? Are you seeing my slideshow yet or no?
Well, no.
Okay, going back to it. I apologize for all the jumping around. It's hard to go from portal.
You're managing the jumping around pretty well, Mimi.
Thank you. Okay. All right, other avenues to connect with us. We are on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. We do have Instagram accounts as well, which is typically where I follow and get my information regarding Inspire SEL and Harmony SEL updates. And those are just Inspire SEL and Harmony SEL. So those are the two pages. And I will put my email in the chat as well so that you have a direct resource for anything related to Inspire. I'd be happy to connect and walk through the program and the modules with you, or if you're interested in bringing this to your organization or your school, we offer all that implementation support for free. So go ahead, reach out, and I'd love to connect.
Thank you, Mimi.
And I'm sorry my video wasn't working. I did want to be able to see, but thank you.
Thank you, Mimi. And Mimi is on the fly and jumping off because she has to actually go on to the next event in person.
Meeting.
So
Yes, in-person
multitasking
meeting
today.
in San Diego. Yeah.
Mimi, thank you so much. And
you.
the really appreciate you sharing the connection between Inspire and Harmony. And now, one of our super users is who you're going to hear from next, who has really gone above and beyond to use Inspire and Harmony to make it really a support what she's trying to do in her program in in the Boys and Girls Club of Crescent Region. And Crystal Adamwe, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for all that you do for children.
Oh, thank you, Al. I'm Crystal Aldemoy. I am the Director of Program Experience for the Boys and Girls Clubs of the Crescent Region. I've been with that organization for about 11 years now. My job is to assess, guide, and support clubs towards what we call the optimal club experience, right? And that is a twofold thing. The club experience is not just how our members, the kids, experience the club, but also how our staff experience the club as well. My role includes curriculum development, strategic partnerships, professional development, staff trainings, any way that the kids are and the staff are experiencing the program. I'm sort of over that. Boys and Girls Clubs of the Crescent Region is one of the largest collections of individual clubs in the country. We have over 100 clubs in 14 counties across the state of South Carolina that are operated by 5 smaller local Boys and Girls Club organizations. Boys and Girls Clubs of the Midlands, Boys and Girls Clubs of Kershaw County, Boys and Girls Clubs of the Lakelands region, Boys and Girls Clubs of York County, and Tri-County B-Grade Academies. Collectively, we served almost just under 12,000 kids and teens last year. So we're a very, very big company. We use what our way of getting to all these kids is what we call B-Grade Academy. And it is our delivery method of how we deliver Boys and Girls Club programming to all of these kids across the state of South Carolina. It's the way that we adapt the Boys and Girls Club, the traditional Boys and Girls Club experience, to work within an after-school setting, while we work with school partners that provide programming within school facilities, so school-based after-school sites. So now that I've gotten a little bit of that background in, I'll start with our journey on how we came to be such great partners with National University and the Harmony SEL and Inspire Inspire, and how we bring them together. Pre-COVID, in late 2018 or early 2019, we began looking for ways to incorporate more SEL into our B-Grade Academy After School program. We began training our staff with ACEs and trauma-informed care trainings. And because a lot of our curriculum is written in-house, we began trying to introduce some SEL concepts, but we were not the experts, and we needed something that was higher quality and more in-depth. We received this lovely thing in the mail, this box of our Sanford Harmony, this is what they were at the time, the quick connection cards, and loved them. We got a set for every one of our sites. We started to figure out ways that we could utilize it and connect it with our curriculum and implement it into our programming. Around the same time, we were approached by another organization that does SEL that had curriculum and staff training, and we went to visit. They had some very specific outcomes, but to attain those outcomes, they had some very rigid requirements, some very, like, their model of execution was very strict. They had very strict attendance rules around how many times the kid could miss. They had requirements around the number of students that could be taken into the program. They had a strict curriculum that had to be followed in a very rigid manner to get the impact that they wanted. And while we loved all of the outcomes and we loved what they stood for and how and what they were bringing to the kids, to implement that program meant that we would have to change our entire program structure. And as Boys and Girls Clubs, we have a very well-established history, culture, and a way of doing things. And changing that would have taken us away from the roots of who we were as an organization. And we just weren't willing to do that. So what did we do? We decided to go back and reach out to Harmony. Within 6 months, we had got Harmony SEL and started to bring that into our curriculum. I met with John Kevin and we brainstormed, how do we collaborate? How does this work for us? How can we take Harmony SEL and make it work for us? How do we cultivate greatness in our youth using Harmony SEL? So we began using the Harmony SEL lessons in the curriculum. First, we used parts of it as standalone curriculum, the same way that a teacher would incorporate them in the classroom, the way Mimi showed you. Unit 1, here's lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3. So we pulled those down and gave those to our staff. We loved I went back to John and asked about some flexibility. Was there a way that we could infuse some of the SEL, the aspects of Harmony SEL and the lessons into some of our existing curriculum? For example, all of our clubs run a running club, right? So Ready, Set, Run. And one of the activities that they have to do is called butterfly runs, where you literally draw a giant butterfly and on one wing, the kids jog. And when they go up the body, they sprint and then they jog and then sprint and then jog and then sprint, right? So it's an activity that kids love. We do it, but how can we infuse SEL into that lesson? Well, in Unit 1, Lesson 5, there's a lesson called Caterpillar Thinking, which is about adopting a growth mindset. So caterpillars, butterflies, they fit together. We could talk to the kids about gaining stick-to-itness and adopting that growth mindset so that they can meet their goals in running club, but not just in running club, but beyond, right? So that was one way that we found that we could be able to infuse parts of lessons and not necessarily needed to run the whole curriculum, but choose different aspects and build it around what we were already doing. Another example of this is the meetups and buddy ups, right? We already had something very similar at the club. So instead of changing our lingo and changing our vernacular to meetups and buddy ups, we just added that as a resource for assemblies and peer-to-peer mentoring, which is how we use them in Boys and Girls Club. So that it didn't feel like it was another thing that our staff had to do or had to learn. Instead, it was just a way to help to make their jobs easier. And then we began to infuse as much curriculum and programming with aspects of Harmony SEL as we could. When we did that, we realized that we couldn't just focus on the kids, that we needed to provide some social emotional support and learning and practices for our staff, which is when we began to adopt the Inspire. We needed our staff to be able to model the things that they were teaching when they were teaching these SEL lessons. And we needed them to understand the why behind it all. So we went through the Harmony SEL, the Inspire programming, and we initially pulled out the 4 modules on misbehavior and consequences. It was something that we felt really strongly about. We made it mandatory for our entire staff, from our CEO to facilities to the receptionists, not just our youth-facing staff, but everybody in the entire organization has to go through those 4 modules. They are now part of our onboarding process. So, but within their first week of working for us, new hires must complete those 4 trainings. The next way that we started to bring Inspire into our world was we started to use them as one-off trainings to address specific needs or as part of action plans, right? So a area director or supervisor can come to me and say, I was at this site yesterday and Miss Susie was really struggling with classroom management. And I can go to my list of trainings and pull out classroom management and send a direct link to Susie and say, here's the training on classroom management to address that specific need in that moment very quickly. The last way that we started to bring Inspire in, and this is the most holistic, and it took the longest to build and to do, was part of our ongoing internal staff professional development, and that's called Be Great University. And so Be Great University is a self-paced professional learning system developed to provide every staff member with a way to gain the skills to help them to be better at their current job and to prepare them for the next step in their careers. Right? It is its own website that staff get a log into, and then there are self-paced clusters that are built around different training topics, right? It's available to all staff at all levels. Trainings are grouped by topic into clusters, and everyone starts at intro level. And as you move through the BGU, the clusters become more specialized based on your current role in the organization, and then you can transition, use them to help you transition into your next role. So once you are, if you're a YDP, a youth development professional, and you're forward facing with staff, and you are getting trainings on inspiration and leadership and classroom management and how to set up your classroom space to maximize learning. Once you get all of those, you can then say, well, my next step is I want to be a trainer, or I want to be a campus director or an area director, or I want to be a curriculum writer. And they, based on what your career goals are, BGU allows you to specialize your learning around what your career goals are. When you complete a cluster as part of the incentive programs, you get a little salary bump at the end of every cluster, because we want you to invest in you, and we want to invest in you as well. So this allows us as an organization to have a measure for staff motivation, and to be able to see who is just using this as a job and who sees this as a career opportunity. Again, who is investing in themselves. And then once we see that you're investing in yourselves, we will pay that back. And things like promotions and merit raises and all that other stuff all take BGU participation into consideration. So the more you invest in yourself here at Boys and Girls Club of the Crescent Region, the more Boys and Girls Club of the Crescent Region will support and rally around you. So, yeah.
Question.
Yeah.
So with the accountability, because the way that you've incentivized this, I'm sure that the accountability is really important, the evidence of people actually, completing modules. So do you use our Inspire, how do you use our Inspire resources to help you with that accountability?
So we use all like Mimi was saying, right? Once you finish a module, you have to complete the little test at the end, assessment at the end, and you get that certificate, right? So to complete that class, you have to submit that certificate back. And then to complete your module, you have to put in all of the certificates for that module have to be, or that cluster have to be completed before you can then move on to the next, right? So you have to show the completion aspect. So once you click, it'll have then the uplink for you to upload your completion, right? And it's self-paced, so there's not really there's no timeline you have to get it done in. It all goes on to fit your life and your schedule.
So for you and leadership implementing this, was that fairly easy then, as far as, creating this whole system and tracking? Because that's a lot of work generally for administration, right?
Yeah. So we were a much smaller organization when we started this partnership and this process. And so we didn't have the full website build out. And it really was just a handful of us who pulled classes and sent links and received back, completion certificates. And then as we started to grow, we realized that was more of a job than any of us. We all had other responsibilities as well. And so Beth Clark built this whole automated system that holds the links, the classes, and allows you to upload. And so nobody has to be sort of in day-to-day in charge of that. It sort of takes care of itself. It doesn't let you move on until you've done that. And then once you complete a cluster, it sends an email to your direct supervisor to let them know. It'll be like, Elle has completed the safety cluster or the DE&I cluster, or so that they know now you have a set of skills that you've invested in, that you've done the communication or the talking with parents cluster, right? So they know that you've now got these skills and these arrows in your quiver, and they can start to use you in that way, right? So now they know there's now an expectation for you to start putting those things into practice, because I know that you've done the classroom management, so I should see some of those tools happening in there, right? So it's not just once you do it, now your boss knows you did it, and they can start holding you accountable to say, hey, I know you just finished that, so let's see some inclusion, let's see some whatever it is, whatever cluster you just finished, they can start to look for those skills in you from there.
Thank you so much. I just love how you have taken it from a vision to a full-on practice.
Yeah, it's been a long few years, but and it's been a lot of trial and error. But we are committed to this, and you guys have been such great partners in helping to build it and helping to look at. One of the things that John really did that was really great was get into so many meetings with us and look at who we were as an organization and how we were structured, and really help to find places where things could connect. That it wasn't just, oh, here's your curriculum, here's some professional development. It was, okay, you could use them like this, or you could use them like, and how it fit us. It wasn't about us trying to fit what you guys had built. It was, no, here's some free resources, use them how best work for you, because we just want you to be using them. And so he was so great in helping us build it out and find the places where we can make connections and say, oh yeah, this group of classes works together and this group of classes works together, or we don't really have something that fits this, but here's another great resource that will work in collaboration with what we have. So you guys have been such great partners in helping to build it so that it was more holistic, and it wasn't just sort of like, here's some classes, go take them.
Thank you. I didn't want to interrupt your flow, but I really appreciate you addressing that.
No problem. So that gets us into the why it worked for us. So that's probably like a really great little transition there. It was all relevant. All the topic areas that are in Harmony and in Inspire are all areas of concern for members, staff, and our organization as a whole. The concepts and strategies were things that could be put into practice right away, whether that was the Harmony curriculum, that was things that we were teaching the kids, or that was Inspire professional development that staff could get in a 30-minute mini module and be able to put in practice that afternoon. Right, so everything was really relevant. Everything was on demand and accessible. Right, our staff come from a variety of walks of life. Some of them are students, some of them are full-time teachers, some of them are retirees, some work several different part-time jobs, and we needed our professional development that could fit their lives and their schedules, right? And then we needed it to be able to meet them where they were, because they also come to us
30%
with a
okay.
and a variety of education and experience levels, right? So we couldn't have cookie cutter sort of professional development. We needed something that could meet them wherever they were and that would be valuable to them no matter who they were, right? When staff needs a certain training or a certain curriculum, they don't have to wait for it to be scheduled or for it to be offered. They can do it that night, that morning, before they go back to work the next day. If they lose their quick connection cards, they can go online, download them and print them, right? Everything is right there on demand and accessible whenever they need them. Everything has a high quality impact, right? There's nothing that is overwhelming about it. It's a collection of targeted lessons that are designed to have impact, whether you use one or you use all, right? And that we could use them in conjunction with other trainings and built around other curriculum was just the best thing, right? BGU clusters have offerings from not just Inspire, but from After School Alliance. We have some webinars from foundations as part of that. We have Achieve Leadership, Pro Solutions, Midlands Technical College. We have classes from all over that are built to make this very holistic professional development space but they all work together, and everything needed to work together so that we could make sure that our staff have the opportunity to develop skills to be successful, right? Because their success is our success, right? And everything was adaptable. Everything was able to move to fit how we needed it to fit. And best of all, it was all free. So it allowed us to keep training our staff during COVID. We could pay staff and not need to pay for professional development. So when we were having to make decisions about where those resources go, we could put them into other places and still know that our members and our staff were getting some of the highest quality SEL and professional development out there, and not have to sacrifice that quality when having to make those really tough decisions about where resources go. So I'm going to wrap it up so that we have some time for questions and answers. The Harmony team really worked with us every step of the way. There was no one right way to implement the curriculum and the trainings. They allowed us to use the language that our staff and our families and our members were already familiar and comfortable with, so that it was easier to implement instead of us having to retrain everybody or to get away from what, who we were as boys and girls clubs. We didn't have to change what the language that is being used in boys and girls clubs across the movement to partner here. We were able to just adapt and bring it into our world. The Harmony team helped us with the rollout. They helped us find places where we could embed different aspects of their programs. And we didn't have to change our identity as an organization. It enhanced our program, and we could use it how we needed to and where it fits. We just used what we need, and it was great. It was we use it every day. 100% of our staff I've gone through Inspire, use Inspire trainings, and almost 12,000 kids get SEL curriculum a year through this partnership. So
Crystal, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And now we'll entertain any questions. So if anyone wants to come off mute and ask a question, or if you want to put it in the chat, that's fine. And I'm going to start it off with, so Crystal, what would you say has been the biggest challenge in infusing a culture of SEL in your programs?
I think initially it was not understanding how hand in hand the curriculum for the kids aspect needed to be with the professional development of the staff. I think initially it was like social emotional learning. We need to do that for our kids. We need to infuse that into all of our curriculum. And how do we put it into programming? And having it for the staff, like the staff well-being and staff understanding their own, like how to regulate their own emotions, and came as an afterthought, in that the staff were like, I can use this. As like, we were getting feedback from staff about using some of the things that they were teaching with themselves. And so we were like, oh wait, these are good tools. Like if we do, like we want our staff to feel good. We want our staff to be able to goal set and have a growth mindset. And we want our staff to have all of these things that we are trying to get them to teach to kids. So how do we get that in them? We want them to be inspired teachers, right? So how do we do that? And so I think the most difficult part was getting to that place where we could understand, okay, how do we do it? And Harmony just made it great, because you had both pieces already sort of built for us to use. But that was the toughest piece, was that we were so focused on the kids that it took us a while to get the staff caught up to be in a place where they could deliver the SEL in a more meaningful way, right? So that it's not just going through the activities and that they really understood what they were doing and were able to put it into practice for themselves and in their own lives.
I love that, because like Maya Angelou says, you can't give what you don't have.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And that was it. That was the key and once we did that, the social, it was everywhere. It was being used. You walk into any of our sites and you're going to see SEL in practice. because it just, once we were able to really get our staff invested in it, and we were able to inject that into them and show them that, oh no, these are not just things that we want for the kids, we as an organization want them for you as well, that then it was everywhere.
So I'm wondering, you are part of a larger family of boys and girls clubs. And I'm wondering, with the impact on your culture and the way you've, really infused this with all staff, have you seen any impact, in the larger organization, or any more outreach with like really emphasizing the importance of SEL?
I mean, yes. So we sort of have been cultural pilot for BGCA, Boys and Girls Clubs of America. So they have come to actually study our organizational culture, and so we are in the middle of that. And we've gotten some of the initial results from that, and what does that mean, and how to like. But yes, so it has become word has gotten out, and so they have come to sort of study what we do and how we do it and why it works. So
that's exciting. Paula's putting in the chat, any of you, if you need certificates of attendance, make sure you do the survey. I'm going to put my information in the chat too, because just like Paula has been giving kudos for my colleague John Colvin, we have representatives across the country that will support you in the same way, where we will listen to you and try to understand what your needs are, what your challenges are, what your gifts are, and how we can work with you. And again, it truly is no cost.
Yeah, it's free.
When I first saw one of the kits, I thought, wow, this is awesome. Where do you get them? And they said it was free. I'm like, yeah, right. Bait and switch. No, we have an amazing benefactor whose mission is to make a difference in the lives of children, one child at a time, that they learn how to be in relationship with themselves and with others. And it is so critically important for the well-being of our nation that we all really learn to develop our own social emotional competencies. So
yeah, and if you're here in the Southeast, you'll get to work with John and
right. But if you contact me, take my information, guys, it's in the chat. Please reach out to me. I will hook you up with the right people. It might be me, but it might be John Colvin. It depends on what region you're in. And we would love to work with you and get our resources out to you. And the kit that Crystal showed you is called our Essentials Kit. It has our quick connection cards and a guide for doing our implementation of our everyday practices that can blend and work with any program really easily, and really support your staff in having a toolkit that helps them do what they want to do anyway. We have several thousand of those still in our warehouse. We've moved to a totally online platform. The links would you put the links in the chat again for me?
Yeah, if you want you could access them right after this webinar by going, like Mimi showed you, onto the website, going to Harmony SEL, logging in and finding the resources for Meetup, for Buddy Up, for quick connection cards, for community builders, for all of that, right? And it works for like I said, in the classroom, it works for summer camp, it works for after school programs. We use it all the time. We use it every day.
And Edith asked, can she receive the toolkit? Edith, I put my information in. You need to email me. And the way that I'm able to ship these resources to you is if we have a partnership agreement. Our partnership agreement is saying that we give you everything for free. You can use it, you can modify it, make it work for you, but you can't sell it. That's the main thing, but this is a gift from our benefactor to our nation's children. So Edith, I hope you'll email me. I know it's a long email. That's a gift from my husband. I used to be a Smith, now I'm Essenmacher. And I have an unfortunate email of Messenmacher, at nu.edu, but please reach out to me. I would love to see how we can get these resources to you for your programs. I do a lot of work with out of school time, and John does. We have lots of people who are familiar with out of school time. We love working with you. I think the out of school time programs actually have more ability to actually focus on the whole child. So please reach out to us. And Paula's asked you once again, please make sure that you do that survey, and she will give you a certificate for attending this workshop today. And I really hope to hear from all of you. I don't see, Paula, did you see any other questions in the chat?
No. Thank you all so much for attending, and thank you, Al and Crystal, and I know Mimi had to go, but thank you to Mimi too for the wonderful information that you guys shared with us. And also especially thanks to everyone who came to took time out of their busy schedules to join us today. And like Elle said, please do take a minute to fill out the survey. That the link is in the chat. We hope you'll join us again next week for another webinar in our Beyond School Hours follow-up series, Beyond the Conference. And I just want to remind you that registration is open for Beyond School Hours Conference, which is in New Orleans, February 14th to 17th this year. And if Crystal and Elle, if you guys don't have anything else to add, then I will close it here. Thanks.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all for being here, and I hope to see you all next week.
Awesome. Thank you. Crystal, thank you again.
Thank you.